Hi, hello, and welcome to another video of mine. I wanted to make a video of how I got into medicine, and this definitely isn't a motivational video, and it's not like a trauma dump, but I think it's a video that I needed to make and I wanted to make to I don't know, just kind of give some context into why I'm going into medicine. And if I sound sick, it's because I am. I caught like a strain of COVID. I don't know how, but I did, which is weird because I'm an avid mask wearer, especially during like COVID and flu season. So I don't know. But yeah, so this is going to be a very unscripted video. I have some notes on my phone that I want to hit. I think this video is going to be pretty much an honest breakdown of why I wanted to become a doctor. I think this is going to be a very rambly video, but stay tuned. Okay, so some background about me is that I am chronically ill. I have 5 chronic illnesses: type 1 diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, celiac disease, adrenal insufficiency, and POTS syndrome. I know it's a lot, but I handle it with grace, and I'm doing well right now, even though I'm sick, but I'm doing well. I've had a lot of instances where I've been hospitalized for periods of times. I've had some great instances where I have been totally fine, and those are great times. But growing up, it was definitely a challenge to manage everything. Just because I was so little, sometimes I didn't really want to understand what was wrong with me. But I was very independent. I was always independent, and funny story, actually, when I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, I was diagnosed at the age of 5, and I hated when people gave me shots, because back then we didn't have the Omnipods or continuous glucose monitors yet, so it was just prick your finger, measure out the insulin, take a shot, like with a syringe. And I hated when people used to give me shots because because they used to and no hate on my parents who used to give me shots, and everybody else, my caretakers in the hospital and anybody like that, but they used to flick the needle somehow when they when after they pulled the syringe out, it used to flick my skin, and it drove me insane because it hurt really bad. And because you think when you're injected, that's the most pain you're gonna feel, and then the syringe comes out and you get flicked. It's horrible. I hated it. And I hated it so much that I convinced my parents to start letting me administer my own shots. And by 4 months after I was out of the hospital, I learned to give myself shots. I did the little training, and my doctors approved of it, and my parents would, of course, do the calculations and fill the syringe with insulin. All I had to do was give myself a shot. And that's just kind of a tiny tidbit, but it was rough, managing all of my chronic illnesses. There was a lot of days where I didn't want to take my meds. I didn't want to take my insulin, and I know that's scary for my parents, and I apologize profusely for that. But I wanted to have a sense of normalcy, and that sense of normalcy didn't click to me that it was my new normal, taking all these medications and stuff like that, and going to doctor's appointments, and ER visits and hospital visits. That was my new normal, and that really sucked, just to realize that was my new normal. And I protested against that by being very difficult with taking meds and stuff. And again, I apologize profusely to my parents and physicians for that. But I struggled with that a lot because I wanted to be normal, and I wanted to have that normalcy that every other, kid does, where they didn't have to worry about taking meds exactly at 8 in the morning, at 1 p.m., at 10:30. And they didn't have to, worry about their insulin to carb ratio. They didn't have to calculate all that. They didn't have to calculate their boluses. They didn't have to calculate, if their basal rate isn't, strong enough during this part of the day. And it just really was a tough time. And I'm summarizing 18, 20 years of me just feeling not normal, which I'm not. I mean, I can admit that now, and that's okay. But it was kind of I don't want to say a death to my childhood. That's so strong. But it definitely felt that way when I was in that position. It really did, and that was a big struggle. And then I also felt very invisible when I went. Invisible in the way that nobody really could understand what I was going through in a way. I know I had, my mom is a significant anchor in my life, and she is also chronically ill, but there is parts where she didn't, even she couldn't understand, which is being diagnosed with all of these things as a child and, living through that. I will forever be grateful for having her in my life and being my anchor, being my anchor then and continuing to be my anchor now that I'm an adult. It's just, I think she understands a lot more of the things I'm dealing with now that I'm an adult. And not when I was a child, just because she didn't have that experience as a kid. Which is totally fine, and I'm not blaming anybody for that, but it was just weird to not have any friends or peers that were going through something similar, and that could fully understand me. Yeah, I think that was a big struggle as well. And then it was weird going from feeling that I wasn't being seen to being overanalyzed in the hospitals and in front of a doctor, just kind of being seen as my illness rather than me as a person. And I would like to give a great shout out to my pediatrician, who absolutely amazing woman. I think she was one of the only physicians that really saw me as me, and me as a person, and me as a child who had so many dreams and aspirations, and really tried to get me back to where I wanted to be in my life. Not just healthy, but back to doing gymnastics, back to being in school, and back to doing after school clubs and stuff like that. But there were many times where I just felt like I was just a number, or a just an organism for doctors to analyze and treat and then push out the door, which didn't feel very great. And I have a quick story that can attest to how clinical physicians can be, and that was when I was in the hospital. I was in the hospital for chronic migraines because I suffered a concussion in gymnastics, and I was so disoriented. My pain scale was at a 10. I was getting IV drip and this cocktail of medications, and the doctor came in and she told 10, 11-year-old Cecilia that, you know, you probably can't do gymnastics anymore. You probably won't be able to do gymnastics anymore. And just left. And I was so heartbroken. I was like appalled, heartbroken. And it wasn't the fact that she told me that I couldn't do gymnastics anymore. In a way, it was more of her, yes, telling me that, but also like not taking into account how destructive her words could be, or how destructive her words were to me as a child. Like, I understand if you pull the parent and say, hey, I don't know if she could, there's a chance she might not be able to do gymnastics anymore with the condition she's in and what we're looking at. But I understand, especially with pediatrics, I understand you need to have a line of communication from, the doctor to patient to their guardians. But I think there was a better way that could have been handled, period. Because that kind of, it's such a mundane, I don't think mundane is the word. It's such a trivial thing that I'm picking apart. But that really destroyed me when I was younger. Because gymnastics was my whole life. At that time, I was a level 10 gymnast. I was considering going elite. And because of that injury, I didn't think it was over. I thought I could recover. But just hearing that from a doctor, that crushed me. And I feel like she was just kind of seeing the diagnosis in a way, and not me as a patient, as a human, as a child, as a gymnast. And I think that was the first time I was like, okay, I don't want to be this type of doctor. I know what doctor that was the start of, oh, okay, let me take some notes so I know what doctor I want to be. I know what doctor I don't want to be. I know the doctor that I should become. I know I share that story of being in the hospital and being told that I couldn't do gymnastics as like the start of my medicine, journey. But it really isn't. I always knew I wanted to be a doctor, and throughout the subsequent diagnoses that I've gone through, my desire to become a doctor strengthened with them. And I think it wasn't until that moment in the hospital when I was told I couldn't do gymnastics anymore, I started paying attention to what type of doctor I want to be. And I think, especially growing up in this medical care system, it's hard not to notice where the disparities are. Like, you really gotta be turning away from it. Like, seriously, it's really hard not to notice. And it's very, easy to spot, doctors that are in it for, the love of the game, or, doctors that are just there to appease something, like their parents, their want for money, or their want for a title, a scholarly title or something like that. Like, how you can tell a professor is just teaching because you're at a research school and they just want to do research, I could tell that a doctor was just there to either be there and really help the people that he's serving, or if he or she is just there to be there, And like I said, that's when I really started noticing the the disparities in the healthcare system and the disparities within doctors and how they treat people and how they treat their patients. I'm lucky to have seen plenty of amazing doctors, and my main group of doctors that I see regularly are spectacular. But I know there's doctors out there that, they just aren't it. And that's not cool. That's not okay. So that really inspired me to, continue my education. By continue my education, I mean my undergrad is in cellular molecular organismal biology, but I also decided to major in psychology so I can really understand the people that I'm serving and that I will help, and I can help them and understand them in and at a deeper level than just clinical doctor patient type of thing. And the type of doctor I want to be is having a very patient centered type of care where the patient is a collaborator in their treatment. It's not just, oh, I'm giving you these meds. Okay, take these meds. It's, hey, I'm thinking of prescribing you these medications. This is what these medications can do. Are you comfortable with that? Are there any medications you think could help you if you've, seen anything or researched anything? Does your insurance approve of these medications? Can we get these medications over the counter for you? Can we get these medications at, a discount price or something if they're not, financially stable? What brings you in today? What brings you in today that I can help with, not only on a, medical level, but is there anything else that's bothering you that could be contributing to your symptoms, type of way? Like, I want to be the physician that understands my patients holistically and really deeply, really establish a deep and trusting connection with my patient. And I understand that may take more time, and that may take more time within within seeing different patients, but I don't want my patient to just be another data point. That's not my goal. And actually, I was considering doing a medical scientist training program, which would let me get my MD and PhD, which in turn I would be able to conduct research alongside with seeing patients, and my patients would contribute to my research, and my research would then circle back to my patients, and I would have a direct, bench to bedside impact. And I think that's something that's very cool and so very individualistic when trying to treat different patients. I can treat them as a single person, and I can help them directly with my research. I could see what's wrong with that specific person and try to treat them that way. And I think especially with patients with chronic illnesses, I think it's important to share and to understand on their end that it's not it's not something that is just get in, get out. I give you meds, you're treated, you're cured. It's it's more of a long-term relationship rather than something to fully cure. You're going to have your ups, you're going to have your downs where you flare, and that's okay. And I would love to be that doctor that, not only understands that, but actively pushes the standard of care in that field, where I'm developing new ways to treat my patients in a way that expands my patients' longevity and expands my patients' they have more good days than bad days. They have more, they have less flare-ups. I'm not trying to get this at an angle of, oh, we're going to cure you. No, I'm trying to get you to a sustainable new normal where you can do all of your activities that you used to do and that you love to do. But there's some, parts of your life that you need to adjust and you need to adapt to get back to where you were. And I truly believe that with modern medicine, the standard of care that we as chronically ill and disabled people, it isn't good enough. It isn't enough. I'm not trying to cause an uproar and be like, this is bad, the system's bad, which it is. But I'm just trying to say that I want to be the doctor, I want to be the physician, I want to be the medical scientist that pushes the standard of care way much farther than it is right now, to the point where we are getting chronically ill patients and disabled patients back to what they love to do, back to their normal. But I want to call it a new normal where they are, doing the same things that they used to do, but it's just they might need to take a couple medications. They might need to have a brace on. They might need to, have an Epsom salt bath every other day just to keep, the swelling down. And that's stuff like that is perfectly fine and okay, but it's you need to fine tune your plan to a plan to every patient. Every patient, every body is different. And I feel like some physicians and some healthcare systems don't understand that, especially with people with chronic illnesses. They don't understand that not all medications are going to work for each and every patient. And if something doesn't work, it's not just, oh, on to the next medication. It's, why didn't this medication work? Okay, now that we understand why this medication didn't work, why will this medication work? Okay, what are you doing outside of taking meds that's triggering these things, that's helping these things? Plans that include the patient with their care, and it includes patient input within their care. So what I envision me doing is structuring a plan for every patient that I see, viewing them holistically, seeing what their goals are, and structuring a plan to get them back to what they want to do. Because when people can't live the way they want to live, it's depressing. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. It's depressing. It's sad. It's sad for them, and it makes me sad because I was there. I was bedridden. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't even take a shower or go to the bathroom by myself as a child. I missed so many school dances. I missed so many gymnastics meets because I couldn't walk. That shouldn't have been my new normal. And thank God it isn't now, because I don't even know if I would be here if that was still my normal. And I don't want anybody, child, adult, senior, to feel the way I did when that was my situation. And I know there's so many people out there that are in those types of situation. Again, with modern medicine, it shouldn't be this way. It shouldn't at all. So that's the type of doctor that I would like to be. I feel that I don't want to be this exceptional doctor because I survived at the things I did. I want to be a very competent and holistic doctor because I paid attention to the things people didn't and to the things people don't pay attention to. Yeah, so I think that's a good way to end my video. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. More content will be coming soon. Let me know what you want in the comments. I can continue to talk about my life with chronic illnesses. I can make some vlogs maybe. I could do some other study content or pre-med content if you would like. But yeah, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when I upload. And yeah, I will see you all later. Have a great day. Bye.